CC Cycle 2, Week 5. My name is Kristen Gibbs, and these are some tutor ideas of what we did in my class. We're going to go ahead and get started off with history. We had, tell me about the 100 Years' War. During the 100 Years' War, Joan of Arc and King, and then we're going to take K's and turn it into King Charles, and then we're going to do the 7th. We're going to take 2, we're going to turn this K into a number 2 and this into a 5, and that's 7. The 7th led the French to defeat the English at the Siege of Orleans. And we're snapping like in the song. And then in the late 1340s, fleas on rats carried the plague. And we're going to go back like a plague, which killed 1 in 3 Europeans. And so we put down one of our fingers to go 1 of 3 Europeans. So the song will go like this. Tell me about the 100 Years' War. During the 100 Years' War, Joan of Arc and King Charles VII led the French to defeat the English at the Siege of Orleans. In the late 1340s, fleas on rats carried the plague which killed 1 out of 3 Europeans. In the late 1340s, fleas on rats carried the plague which killed 1 out of 3 Europeans. One more time. Tell me about the 100 Years' War. During the 100 Years' War, Joan of Arc and King Charles VII led the French to defeat the English at the Siege of Orleans. In the late 1340s, fleas on rats carried the plague which killed 1 out of 3 Europeans. In the late 1340s, fleas on rats carried the plague which killed 1 out of 3 Europeans. And that was our history. And that was about the 100 Years' War. And we also use a lot of these papers. I'm going to go ahead and move on to geography. We started off with our maps, and we used our dry erase markers to talk about our European cities. We first sang our song, which was to London Bridge is Falling Down, which we are doing a European city, London. And it started off with European cities, London, Paris, Rome, and Barcelona, Orleans. And then I had the children point to them. London, European cities, London, Paris, Rome, and Barcelona, Orleans. European cities, London, Paris, Rome, and Barcelona, Orleans. And then I would ask them, where is Paris? And they would point. Where is Orleans? Where is Rome? Where is Barcelona? Where is London? And until we felt like we had it. So that is what we did for geography, show me, tell me. And then we went ahead and went on to science. We were learning about what are some cycles in nature. We did this to the tune of Yankee Doodle. Some cycles in nature, we have the water cycle. We made a W for the water cycle and went around. We had carbon and oxygen cycle. This one was a lot of fun. We did a C and an O for oxygen cycle. Then we placed our hands on our belly and we breathed in. And then we had nitrogen cycle. And so for nitrogen, we kind of went like this, like it smells. And then we also made an N for nitrogen cycle. And this was a lot of fun because it was hard for some of the kids to be able to do this and also circle, but it made it really fun. We found out that as you start one thing, then you can add another instead of starting them at the same time. So that was a lot of fun. The song that we did was Yankee Doodle. Water cycle, carbon and water cycle, carbon and oxygen cycle. Nitrogen cycle, these are some cycles in nature. Water cycle, carbon and oxygen cycle. Nitrogen cycle, these are some cycles in nature. And that was a lot of fun, doing those hand motions. We ended up moving on to our English. English, we're learning objective pronouns. We have our singular, which is me, you, him, her, it. We have plural, us, you, them. And so we are still singing this to the tune of the chicken dance. And so this is pretty hard, but objective starts with me. So me, you. Him, her, it. Us, you, them. So if you want to do it that way, or we can do it for the chicken dance, which is objective pronouns, me, you, him, her, it, us, you, them. Objective pronouns, me, you, him, her, it, us, you, them. Objective pronouns, me, you, him, her, it, us, you, them. The hard thing will be adding last week's with this week's. I challenge you to do that this week. The next thing that we did was we moved on to Latin, and we had first conjugation endings future tense. We took bows, and I grabbed lots of different bows. I put them in a bag. Some of the bows I had the kids, they were able to pick out all different kinds of bows, and even bow ties for the boys, and to help them think of the future tense. I had them all stand up in line. They could pick whichever bow that they wanted to use. So for example, if I use this bow, we all stood up in a line. The person at the back was going to pass the bow down the line to the person in the front of the line, which is the future. And so the bow was making its way to the future for future tense. And this was to the three blind mice, and that was bo bis bit, bimis bitis bunt, bo bis bit, bimis bitis bunt. First conjugation, a bo bis bit, bo bis bit, bimis bitis bunt, bo bis bit, bimis bitis bunt, bo bis bit, bimis bitis bunt. First conjugation, future tense. And then we ended up moving on from Latin, and bow is the first one for future. We moved on from Latin into math. Math, we were skip counting the 9s and then the 10s. For the 10s, what we ended up doing was we did, instead of high fives around a circle, we did high 10s around the circle. Everybody sat in a circle and we just turned to our left. We did 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and everybody went around and doing the 10s until the last person, who was 150. They were the winner of the game. And for that, a lot of games that I play throughout the school year, I use these chopsticks, and I take them, I let them pick a scent out, and then I will, let's say for instance, tricks. They picked out tricks, and then you get to rub it on their hand, and then all day long they can smell it, and it's called a smelly. So it's a great little prize, and so we had a couple of winners win smellies and our 9s. So skip counting by 10s, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120, 130, 140, 150. And then our 9s, we actually used our musical instruments. I just have a bag full of musical instruments. We passed those around, and we did our 9s. 2, 9, 18, 27, 36, 45 and 54, 63 and 72, 81 and 90, 99, 108, 117, 126, 135. And those were our 9s. And if you need help with pronouncing some of the Latin, I do use these sheets. I think they're amazing, incredible. The last thing we ended up doing was timeline for our review, and we have Judah falls to Babylon, temple destroyed. Babylon falls to Persia. Jews return and rebuild the temple. Roman Republic, Golden Age of Greece. Peloponnesian Wars. Persia falls to Alexander the Great. And we are building an incredible timeline song. And so it will start off with Judah falls to Babylon, temple destroyed. Babylon falls to Persia, Jews return and rebuild the temple. Roman Republic, Golden Age of Greece, Peloponnesian Wars. Persia falls to Alexander the Great. At the end, we knew that it was Persia with both hands falling because we're about to take both of our hands and do Alexander the Great. So we have Judah falls to Babylon, temple destroyed. Babylon falls to Persia, Jews return and rebuild the temple. Roman Republic, Golden Age of Greece, Peloponnesian Wars. Persia falls to Alexander the Great. And that was our timeline. For morning table, we are continuing doing our prayer boxes. We're also doing our All About Me sheets. Today, we actually just wrote our name. We forgot to even do the first thing, which was write our name on the paper. And we're also doing our scripture cards. And for art, we moved on to art, and we were talking about perspective drawing. This was so much fun because we started off talking about our oils. We also talked about perspective drawing, 1-point perspective, and we used our papers, pencils, rulers, colored pencils, and we talked about the illusion of depth and making it 3-dimensional, even though this is a 2-dimensional paper. We started off with a point of a horizontal line and a vanishing point. This little dot's going to be our vanishing point. Then we took our ruler and made this rectangle shape here. And then we drew 2 lines, one going up, one going down. And then we drew these little arches. And then we drew the horizontal lines matching the horizon line. Then we did our triangle for the Eiffel Tower. Then we added some lines, horizontal lines, which were also the same as our horizon line. And then we added some crisscrossing lines in the tower. This was a picture of what mine ended up turning out to be. The kids had a great time doing this, but you can see there's the water, there's some grass, the wall. These are little archways for the bridge and the people from the Eiffel Tower, clouds, and it does give you that feeling of a 3-dimensional perspective drawing and the depth. The next thing we did was science. For science, it was a lot of fun. The first thing we did was we took this balloon and we started off by blowing it up just a little bit. And then we added little stars all over and then we talked about expanding the balloon and what will happen with our universe when our universe expands. And so will the distance between the stars stay the same, or will they grow further and further apart? Well, let's see. Are they getting closer together? Or are they going further apart? You're right, they are going further apart. We talked about the other experiment, and this was another demonstration of that. And then I really missed having Marcy today, but what we learned was astronomers believe that the galaxies are moving away from each other, similarly in the same way the dots on the balloon move. Not all galaxies are moving away from us at the same rate. In 1929, Dr. Edward Hubble discovered that the farther away a galaxy is, the faster it seems to be moving away from us. Since no 2 galaxies seem to be getting closer as they move, scientists believe the universe is expanding. And that's the exact experiment that we did. And then the other experiment that we did was, if I can find it,